shot during the summer and the shorter days to be shot during the winter. So that's why we did that.
See, that's what you learn.
Yeah.
When you look
Took us 3 years to figure that out.
were you a reluctant convert to the idea of a real-time show?
I still am, actually.
Really? You haven't bought it yet?
Joel called me up 5 years ago, I guess it was now.
6 years ago, Bob.
Yeah, and said, I have this idea for the framework, 24 episodes, 24 hours. Each episode is 1 hour of real time. And my first reaction was, it's not possible to do. It's just too difficult. And he kept after me, so we sat down and we started thinking about stories you could tell to justify that framework. So everybody has to stay awake for 24 hours and keep on the go. So that's how we came to the thriller.
Originally, it was going to be a wedding.
And we thought about doing it as a comedy. Lovers and Other Strangers was the movie that crossed our minds.
That's our first thought.
Yeah.
But then we came to the thriller aspect of it, where you have a clock like Day of the Jackal,
Right.
or In the Line of Fire, and those were things that drove us to the assassination plot. And then we started thinking, well, you can't do nothing but action. You got to have a personal side to it. What personal story can this guy have that would match the urgency of stopping an assassination? And it would have to have something to do with his children, so we had his daughter run away from home
And
that
then you could
night.
have a love affair with somebody who goes to the other side.
Right. Those were all things we came up with later, but originally the notion was thriller, missing child, or assassination, missing child, and put a guy in the middle of those two pincers, where he had to figure out which way to jump.
In the end, whenever this ends, I mean, is it 2 more years in it? Is 3 more years in it? How will you make a decision that 24 has reached its
Well, I think,
limit?
honestly, I think the format can continue well past all of our participation.
Even Kiefer?
Yeah, and I've always said that.
Have
Well,
you really?
Yeah, I believe very strongly that.
I mean,
it can.
we obviously that's nothing that
It's under consideration.
under consideration at all. But I'm just saying, when we all say to ourselves, we've done everything we want for it, here's the format, I think it's worth a shot, because I do think the format itself is alluring to people. Now, you have to have all the other parts behind it. You have to have people who can crack the code of writing it and
See, I'm
acting.
surprised that, look at CSI. I mean, with CSI, how many cities there are now. I'm surprised that the 24-hour concept has not been applied to other forms of either a wedding, whatever it might be.
Well, they asked us after the first season or the second season, Bob. They said, do a spin-off, do something else 24. Yeah. But again, it is so hard to write this show. We only have about 3 or 4 people who are really capable of cracking the real-time structuring. So you can't just franchise it that way.
The final edit is made by you?
Yes.
You decide, this is my show and this is what I think it...
That's our show, but yeah.
Yeah.
I'm the guy in the editing room.
What do you want us to leave with each episode? A sense of can't wait till next Monday.
That's bottom line.
It's like the old serial cartoons, Saturday cartoons.
Simply put, a
leaving a
cliffhanger.
character in jeopardy, and I can't wait to see how he gets out of it.
It keeps going. Yeah. Which, again, we were told in the first year, tie everything up each episode and have them be standalone. And then by the end of the first year, they said, keep them going.
But you guys as television people, does it make it harder in terms of people not being able to feel like they can join in, and if they miss an episode, they shouldn't come back? Or people who haven't watched the first 5 episodes thinking, my God, why can't I join it at this point?
I'm sure there are some people who do feel that way. We try to make it viewer-friendly in a couple of ways. One, we have that previously on segment, which lasts for a couple of minutes, which brings everybody up to date.
Right.
That's one thing. The other thing is the structure of the show is such that you have a big problem. There's a nuclear bomb that's going to go off sometime today, say, in year 2. Well, it doesn't take very long to get up to speed on that basic problem if you tune in. And if once you're hooked into that basic problem, oh, these guys are trying to stop a nuclear weapon from going off, then the smaller elements you can catch up on. But if we keep the basic storyline clear enough so that people can get it pretty quickly, hopefully there's not a barrier to entry.
How do you guys inform yourself about
Me personally,
nuclear terrorism and what how this might be carried out? Or is it just simply a creative act of fictional TV makers?
3 channels you can watch. Wings, which is now the military channel, is 24 hours of documentaries of special forces, of covert operations, documentaries on the Iraqi War, documentaries of
Old episodes of La Femme Nikita.
it's actually it's a phenomenal channel. I watched a 4-part thing the other day
On a military thing?
Yeah, on the military channel, and it was four Special Forces guys, the first guys to land in Afghanistan and hook up in Afghanistan and actually bring the rest of the troops in. Taught me more about the wireless communications they're using now, electronic motorized cameras with either, there's a 5-piece plane you can put together in the field, and it can actually fly at about 4,000 feet and do recon for you. All of these little things, the vernacular, which is so important to us, just kind of start watching documentaries on that.
This is the cable channel is Wings?
It was Wings. It's now the military channel. Discovery Channel has fantastic documentaries on it. The New York Times Discovery Channel has fantastic documentaries kind of periodically during the day dealing with this world.
What kind of communication do you get from guys at the Pentagon or from CIA? Any?
Actually, Bob's got to talk about that because he dealt with Chase Brandon from the CIA.
Yeah, I've talked with several people there, and you know, the show's very popular there.
I can imagine.
Yeah, they really love it, and they know we're exaggerating things and so forth, but they like it very much, and they've been very helpful to us.
How do they help you?
We make a lot of stuff up, of course. That's our job, but sometimes we come to a place where you're looking for, is this really what would happen? Or how would you handle the situation? Or I remember one time we were looking for a particularly horrific way of torturing someone at short notice. And there's the CIA manual on interrogation that gives you sort of chapter and verse about how you go in. Now, those kinds of things are helpful in spots.
Bringing characters back, as that we mentioned earlier. You know, you've got Dennis coming back. Where did that idea come from? Just simply that there was a fan base for these people, and therefore you want to bring them back to add to the...
The first thing that we came up with was losing characters that we love, actors that we love. Sarah Clark, Xander Berkeley, Paul Schulze, who are phenomenal actors. And the idea of killing him came out of story. It just came out of desperation in a room. Well, what can we do here? We came up with this idea for Xander at the very beginning of season 2 to have him infected by a chemical radiation poisoning, and then he was dying throughout the season. And so we knew we were going to lose him. The idea of bringing characters back came from the idea that we would start a season and not have a place for that character. So we couldn't make a deal with them to begin the next season. But we knew we loved these actors, we love these characters, they're beloved by our fans. So as the story started to change and shift and move through the season, we said, okay, here's an opportunity. We have a weak president. Let's bring Palmer in to become a strong president and step in for him and become the de facto leader during this crisis. So those things come out of kind of a combination of story and a desire to find a way to bring these characters back. It's the hardest thing that we have to deal with as producers is we end up
making choices about the elimination of
characters wonderful actors that we've worked with, but through whatever reason, either their stories end or they get killed. You know, and it's and story trumps everything. You know, we don't.
Story trumps character.
Yeah, absolutely. We start from it all begins and ends with the story for us, with the exception of Jack Bauer. Everyone on the show is dispensable.
So that means that at some point, when the days of 24 are numbered, Jack Bauer dies.
He's dispensable, whether he dies or what happens to him. But I mean,
or he quits, so he goes away.
And it's something that I've articulated before, and I think I've been misunderstood. I think people have said, "Oh, so you don't want to do 24 anymore?" I'd do this for the rest of my life. I've had a fantastic time making this show, and the writing has been fantastic, and it's been exciting, and it's been an incredible challenge to try and keep it. I felt very strongly and passionate about the quality of the show in the first year. I have never come from the standpoint that I wanted to make the show better. I wanted to maintain the quality.